We're going to look at something that I have never seen in the sky or on the ground. And that comes up right after this countdown. So we can, let people kind of get in their chairs before we start. All right, back at 90. All right. Good evening, everybody. Scott Stevens here with a look at Scott's weather on a Wednesday night. If you didn't catch another perspective, what was that exactly 6 hours ago, where we kind of talked about desire, controlling desire, and where desire can take you, whether you like it or not. All right. We're going to look at something here in a little bit. If you're here to the very, very top, I talked about some unusual signs of the times. If you kind of want to go down that road, I couldn't say that you would be wrong if you wanted to label things like that, because the unusual has certainly eclipsed the usual in what's happening in our now day-to-day lives. So then, of course, I'm not ready for that, am I? Look at that, Scott, you little rascal. Right in there. And then we'll bring that all up. So we're going to start rather quickly with these are the two same stories that we've been dealing with in one form or another. The cool and unsettled weather in the Carolinas, and then into the Northwest, where it's even colder and even more widespread. This little cutoff, so as Sue Ostro showing us a couple of images of it. This one, the visible, and then the water vapor with the nice circulation curling over North Carolina, where somebody had said they called it Juneuary. Juneuary. That's not a bad where you kind of mash the two seasons together. We looked at a tornado a couple of days back. I believe it was last Friday, where it looked like a tornado was sitting upside down with a little debris cloud spinning around it. And here we are with another photographer over Ireland this time, and catching a picture of something that's not too dissimilar. It's not the same, but it's similar. It's similar. So something is happening. That from severeweather.eu. And as we get into the springtime season, it's just the time where mothers are taking care of their little baby birds, their little baby cubs. This actually in Sebring, Florida, with the bears are out. And I would be lying if I didn't say we had not had bears on our back porch on a fairly regular basis here in Colorado. So it's just that time where they're out showing the young where the food is, where you go to eat, outside of mama. You got to train them. And then also how to climb a tree, of course, to, get away from danger that may show up. Serious flooding issues in Southwest Virginia today on the northern side of that cutoff low. We started off looking at the track the rain and get the weather alerts on your AccuWeather app. But of course, this is a propane truck that's going to have to be wenched out of what looks like a road that is just completely washed out. Congratulations to the future owners of the world's most expensive storm surge gauge, as developers reveal plans for a $1.2 billion casino resort. Plans for a barge that's a casino resort in Biloxi, Mississippi. I don't know. You're going to have to recover that cost very, very quickly, or, sucker some insurance company in for coverage, because that just seems a little iffy to be building like that on the coastal areas. Remarkable embedded gravity waves. we'll see those. See right there. I love looking at gravity waves and how these waves interact with this and just the smoke plumes in the southwest. So now we know and have very clear evidence, and I've been saying this for 15 plus years, that these waves are in the atmosphere and they really can constitute a large part of our weather. And if we could include those in at least the short-term models, we would do wonders for our accuracy in the maybe 12 to 18 to 24-hour range. This is also the Saharan dust that we've seen as it continues to roll off the coast of Africa on very, very strong easterly winds. Of course, we've got a model for that. You can see it rolling through the Caribbean into and up into the Gulf of Mexico. This coming up on 19-20 June, so about 3 days from now. And then on the 23rd of June, we may get some of that hazy orange look in the sky all the way into the lower Mississippi Valley. So something to look forward to, or just to say, hey, I know where that came from. For the storm chasers out there, we're headed into the far northern plains, or even into the western plains of far west Texas, out into the panhandle of Texas, where they've had some very strong south winds. The moisture's struggling to get farther west, but it's definitely being drawn into where we've had that snow, and we'll show that in a moment. And there are 53 active fires in the U.S. that span at least 100 acres. That's the threshold. It's got to be 100-acre size. In weather like this out west, that can happen rather quickly, depending on the fuel situation of the burn. But on the whole, 100 acres can be achieved rather quickly, especially in steep, loaded terrain. Over there in the chat box, wow, that's twice, Vicky. Yeah, for that kind of shape of a cloud. They're so cute, but not sure I want one in my backyard, Tracy. No, you probably don't, but they can be tamed. You can feed them, you can love them up, but you'll never be able to kick them out of the house after that. And Reese is saying, we don't need any extra dust here in the panhandle. Well, if it gets that far west, I might be a bit surprised. Dallas, Houston, Shreveport, Nashville, Atlanta, and then Florida will likely see some of that dust. Some come probably Tuesday is when it's modeling out. Lost Trail Pass is snow covered this morning with winter storm warning remains posted through noontime. This was out of Montana. So this is between the border of Idaho and Montana, where they had to probably get out the salt or sand trucks once again to give those motorists a little bit of push. And then we can take a second to recognize just how beautiful a continent Australia is, with some rain, some showers along that east coast, and then much of the heart of the continent just dry, with ridges along the boundaries to keep that humidity, that moisture away. It's just one great big outback, right, Tracy? All right, John Serlin at Evanston, Wyoming at 5:06 this morning. This was the aftermath, but this is what was happening at 5:06 in Evanston, Wyoming this morning. So, hey, June 17th, 2020, what do we expect anything different for 2020? And they're trying to up it down in the Carolinas, as they're saying midday. Here we are, just in the mid 60s, and that's where the Juneuary comment came from. Was just the cool that's just kind of out of place. Fun fact from the San Antonio Austin National Weather Service: the 2 p.m. temperature at our office in New Braunfels is 91, whereas the temperature in Fargo, North Dakota, got beat by 5, 96 degrees. From Cody Evan, this is one of the scenes of the second round of dual tornadoes 6 years ago today between Wisner and Pender, Nebraska. That was an intense day. I obviously wasn't out there chasing, but to bring home a photography like that is kind of crazy. All right, I want to show you that little beast right there, but we're going to go to Facebook, where I've got a much larger, longer, and cleaner video of it. And what? Occasionally, because I was in the Weather Wars sphere and looking at the unusual, let's just put it kindly, I tend to get these kind of videos show up from time to time, and I'm always interested. Sometimes it's something you've seen before and will likely see again. And so its unusualness or the wow factor is not as great as something you have obviously never seen before. And what we seem to be looking at, this is Birmingham, England. And the gal in the background, I don't know whether you can hear it or not, whether we got 2 channels fed into this, but what it looks like is a rainbow because we're looking off to the east. We're very, very close to sunset. So the sun is maybe a degree, 2 degrees off the horizon. So with a deck of clouds overhead, the sun has to get low to find its way, like through the little opening there, and that's what's happening on behind her. But instead of a rainbow forming, it's a dome. It's just a dome. And it's a little phenomenal to see it take shape, to see it not necessarily solidify, but really take on a little bit more form. And we're very close. And then I'm going to pop this just ahead a little bit because we do begin to get some lightning happening around it. CBS had a show, I believe it was CBS, a series called Under the Dome, where this invisible dome ended up popping into town and then isolated the people from everywhere else. So really the question is this natural? Is this man-made, or is this some ET type technology? And that's a question that I doubt we'll get an answer for. But these kind of events, these kind of strange sights continue to show up in all kinds of odd places. And I believe we're about to see a lightning strike, which truly, hits like the center of something. There's something going on in this thing that we can't see, but it kind of gets illuminated with the proper light. But maybe I've missed it. Oh yeah, here we are coming up in just seconds. Yeah, Tracy, what causes that? I don't know. I think it has to be technology. It has to be technology. So we're using dimensional tools to shield, to hide, to transport. Something is going on. And I can promise you, we have no idea of the true extent of our abilities and capabilities that we have developed over the last 50 years, 100 years. There's so much of what Germany developed during World War II and prior to World War II that remains secret to this day. Even if we used Project Paperclip and brought those scientists over, they brought with them knowledge, and that doesn't even begin to consider those that escaped Germany prior to the Allied successful invasion. And that was a whole nother contingent of assets and science and knowledge and papers. All of those kind of things are hidden, probably because they would change our appetite for oil, change our ability to travel from here to there instead of going 400, 500 miles an hour in a jet fuel burning airplane. We could get there in minutes instead of hours. There's a whole menu, roster of technologies that, when the time comes, will come out. They will come out. You can't keep things secret forever. All right, quick glance at temperatures. You can see the heat in the middle, the cool still in the west and in the southeast, with the hot weather across Texas all the way up to almost Winnipeg, Canada. And then there's the low pressure systems curling over the Carolinas, storms erupting in Texas. We'll look at those, and then the fires. And then the snows that happen in the Mountain West. I kind of wished I would have been there to see those. Mid-June snows, always kind of fun. But then smoke plumes are kind of entertaining at the same time too. As the smoke goes out, this is yesterday's emissions as they now begin to progress towards the east. And there's the rain that will try to put out the fires, but that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. We're just going to have to hope for some pretty healthy rains out into Texas, the snows up north, and then the eruption of the severe weather. So Lubbock and South, or Plainview South, looking for some storms tonight. And then it really doesn't really change a lot. This cool front now marches off to the east from today to tomorrow. Again, with widely scattered, but nothing too terribly severe, nothing too excited to get about. The risk of high elevation snows still persists as we get into Saturday. And then the risk for record highs, we're zeros, ones, kind of all the way through the period, maybe in the Northeast as the heat that's in the middle of the nation now progresses off to the east, but we're really kind of in a temperate kind of place. So off to the jet stream, and then we'll kind of let it go. unless you've got questions over there. I feel the investigator in you. So says Trey. I should bring that right up, couldn't you? Because I can. I feel the investigator in you wants to get to the bottom of it, and I do, I do. And it's interesting how technology can be hidden in plain sight. It's magic. It's unexplainable. And if you don't have the technological context to understand what you're looking at, it's very easy to not really grasp the whole picture of what's happening. And so these kind of events for a physicist or someone at JPL, the Jet Propulsion Lab, or even an astronaut to look at that, they're going to recognize, okay, this is how it happened. This is the kind of energy they need to use. This is how you're going to focus a field, da 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 da. Or even a meteorologist who knows the weather, knows the atmosphere, knows those kind of optics, can look at it and just very quickly go through a checklist and say, that's not it, it's not that, it's not this or that. So then what is it? And that's how we kind of do the science. You eliminate what it isn't, and then what are you left with? And then that gets us closer to Occam's razor. But then if you don't have the context to see all the potentials, you're still going to be left with something called like an unidentified aerial phenomena. All right. Here's our cool in the Mountain West, the tight little baby brought us the snow, and then another one, Vort, just spinning down there, keeping the showers in the Carolinas. And it's got another day and a half, 2 days before it gets kicked out. The one over the Mountain West leaves much more quickly, but it doesn't completely go. Even 5 days away, it's just in Manitoba, Western Ontario, while the heat returns to the west. So my local audience in the San Luis Valley, probably tomorrow is our coolest day of the week, low 80s, and then we push into the middle and upper 80s, so 30, 31, 32 Celsius for those in that system. And then, another low drops into the Carolinas as we get to 7, 8 days from now, not the Carolinas, but the Great Lakes states. And it just hangs out, and then more cold comes into the Mountain West while the heat then moves to central Canada. So some crazy things are happening. We've got other patterns at play here that are much, much larger in scale. This is to be, I don't want that. I want this tab right there. And then there's our 6 to 10 day outlook. So kind of wet in the middle Mississippi Valley, dry to the north, right in through here. They're seeing a below chance normal precip, and then cool as well. It's interesting because the guys, every day we get a little closer to next week, they bring more and more cool weather into the forecast. It's nice to be able to adjust on the fly. All right. Yeah, those are crazy fires, weren't they, Vicky? They're big. That looks like the Durango fire that is closest to us, not putting out quite the smoke plume today. So maybe those firemen and women were able to get out there last night and then get on it either with aerial drops, bringing water, or fire lines, those kind of things, because I didn't see the plume pop up to near the extent it was today because we had to close the windows probably by mid-morning here because of the smoke. And when you can smell it, it's kind of close. All right, Jody. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. There's so much to share, and that's half the fun of 2020 and B, the internet. Is these things would have had to have been published and then mailed to you in a pamphlet or a magazine on a once a month or bi-monthly kind of cycle. And with the internet, we can share what we see, and to those that can see, we can share with. And then it becomes this beautiful roundabout thing. All right, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you tomorrow evening here in Scott's Weather. Take care, guys. Have a great night. Keep looking up.